This is Sam Ball, PhD student and co-lead of HiPy.
And this is Rob Treharne, TEL lecturer in life sciences and co-founder of HiPy.
And you are listening to the Academy's Developing Practice podcast.
Hello and welcome to the next episode of the University of Liverpool's Academy's Developing Practice podcast. Today, myself, Matthew Davis, an organisational developer, and Alex Owen, academic developer, sat down with Dr. Rob Treharne and Sam Ball to talk about the creation of HiPy, which is a community-led approach to learning to code. We hope you enjoy the chat.
I'm really pleased to be speaking with you both today, Sam and Rob. Before I say anything, really, I should congratulate you on the Innovation of the Year award that you won last night.
Thank you, yes.
The award isn't here for the listeners.
No, it's at home.
Because it's really, really heavy.
Yeah. It was heavy. Getting it on the bus was tricky.
So I'm really keen to have this conversation because I'm a bit of a self-proclaimed geek.
Okay.
So this speaks to me a lot. And I'd let you know, I'm really interested to hear more about the HiPy project. But before we do that, and we have this with every guest, we like to get a bit of an origin story. So if I can start with you, can you just tell us a bit about your professional background and how you got to
so do you know what? I checked yesterday, it was 9 years to the day I've been at the University of Liverpool. So I came here after doing a PhD in condensed matter physics at the University of Durham. And I had a research post here for about 3 years in the Stevenson Institute for Renewable Energy, working on photovoltaics, which is really fun. I became a manager for a Centre for Doctoral Training in physics, which was a cross-institutional postgraduate training centre for specifically for photovoltaics. Mm-hmm. And I did that for a couple of years, and then I ended up applying and successfully getting a lectureship in life sciences. So I've gone from physics to life sciences now. I've been in life sciences as a TEL lecturer for about 3 years now, which is really fun. Yes, yeah, and sort of all along that. So the HiPy really originated with the Centre for Doctoral Training. And it's just something sort of progressed, and I've kept going.
Right. So that's gone with you.
Yes, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Sam?
Yeah, so I did a integrated masters in Liverpool for 4 years for maths, and then in my second year I went to a HiPy event and kind of helped out a little bit, talked with people about Python, and then got invited to help run it. And then since then I've been kind of co-running it for 4 years now. Yeah, 4 years. Yeah.
Sounds very modest. He more than helped.
But yes, now I'm doing a PhD in the life sciences department, doing artificial intelligence. So I'm applying what I've learned doing HiPy directly to a PhD, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So the Innovation Award that you received last night from the University of Liverpool Staff Awards is directly related to HiPy.
No, it's not actually.
Okay. So what was that for?
So when I'm not doing HiPy, so if my boss is listening, I do other things. I've quite a large role within life sciences, developing applications that take all of our school data from our students and our staff and sort of present it in ways that make it very, very accessible to students. So this particular innovation was like an Amazon inspired app, like a shopping trolley app for student module choices. So we've got a massive program in life sciences, our biological sciences program. Over 3 years, students can select from about 150 different modules. I mean, the permutations are just almost infinite, right? So it's really difficult for students to make those choices. So what the app does, it sort of pre-populates a selection of modules for them based on their interests, and then they can chop and change them. And if they select one, it will tell them how many other people did this and whether they enjoyed it. So it really helps them have a good sort of snapshot of sort of an entire program. So that was what that was awarded for, not for HiPy.
So that must really enhance the student experience. Have you had much feedback from
Yeah, it was
students?
really, really great feedback. So what we didn't anticipate was it would be really, really useful for things like open days.
Yeah.
So, you have, parents and prospective students coming in and they're like, oh, well, could I do this? Could I do that? And, at the click of a button, you can design a bespoke sort of program for a student, and they can say, oh, yeah, I can see it, all the way up to sort of their third year. And the other thing is, our ex-JTLU intake as well. So we have our ex-JTLU students don't get here till their second year. So well in advance of that, they can sort of have a good look at the module selections that are available to them and make informed decisions on what they're going to... Because again, there's a lot of flexibility in their programs too. So it's been quite useful.
Brilliant. And this is something that's just based in biological sciences?
Currently, yeah, it is scalable. So we're currently looking at ways it can be scaled elsewhere. If you're interested in that, then get in touch. I'd love to see if I can scale it to a different faculty or a different school.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I'm sure people would be interested in that. Sounds a really good innovation in terms of enhancing the student experience and choosing the right module options for them and where they want to go. Brilliant. But we're here to talk about HiPy today.
Yes, sorry.
So, no, not at all. Can you tell us a little bit about the HiPy story? So where it came from, how it started?
You should do this one because...
Okay. Yeah, so... So essentially it started because Rob was talking to a lot of kind of PhD doctoral training students, postdocs, undergrad students, and there was this massive need for people to learn how to code for their work. So Rob and a group of friends just decided to just set up a session where everyone would just come into a room and they'd just kind of learn how to code together. It was a very loose structure kind of thing.
As it still is.
As it still is. There weren't kind of any set resources, I believe. Or maybe there was one.
Oh, no, you got to give me some credit. We did a bit of Googling before we did it.
But it was fantastic because it was just a room full of about 50 people who all wanted to be there to learn one thing.
Yeah.
And kind of like... It was kind of like a group struggle where kind of everyone had their own errors and problems, but you kind of asked the person next to you. And it was a great community. And basically, I think that's what we've tried to take forward is that kind of idea of kind of like community learning and talking to the people next to you and kind of like exchange of ideas and information kind of thing.
Lovely.
Yeah.
And am I right in saying that when you first advertised it, you thought you'd get one or two people?
Well, I was looking just for... Because I had, a number of students, but it was, about half a dozen.
Yeah.
And I thought, we're doing this, we might as well just, I remember thinking the room's massive, so if anyone else wants to come, they can. And about 70 people turned up. And then I had a mild panic when that happens. So all this, we deliver, I think, quite a polished narrative about, this Hive Learning approach to teaching and active learning. But actually that evolved very organically from a very sort of considerable need to do it. Because, we could never have, I never had the capacity to teach that many people in one go. Plus, I think it would have been really boring if I just, lectured everybody in the room. So we said, right, we'll just do it. Here's some resources.
So tell us what Hive Learning is, because as you say, I think maybe you were expecting 12 and you were just going to teach them how to code, but actually you had 70 people, and on the spot you had to think of how you were going to engage those 70 people, and you've come up with this idea of Hive Learning.
Yeah, that's the name we gave it.
Great.
So what happened on the day on our first session? After panicking, we realised, okay, we've got to figure something out.
Deep breath.
So I basically lined everyone up against a wall and said, who knows any Python whatsoever? And I didn't bully, but I sort of tickled them until they admitted they'd had a bit of prerequisite knowledge.
And tell us what Python is for those.
Okay, sorry. So Python is a high-level coding language. It's one of the. It is probably the most popular language now, right?
I think it's second or third most popular.
Okay, it's used for the application is so broad.
It's used in gaming, right?
You can build games with it. I build web applications with it. We were talking about web scraping for data for the coronavirus. Building very, very interactive visualizations for data, the whole application for data science and things like machine learning.
Artificial intelligence.
You do that in your PhD.
Yeah.
It's a skill that, in terms of the future of employability of our graduates, is really, really important. We feel. So that's what Python is. There are other languages available. I feel like I should say that. But the reason we chose Python was because it's something I was comfortable using. And Hive Learning. So what happened was I basically forced people to admit whether they had some experience with Python, and I identified those people, stationed them strategically around the room, and I've got some experience as a scout leader as well. So I basically then went along the line, going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So got them all grouped up, so that at least there'd be one person in each group who knew a bit of Python, and it worked really well. And I think once people understood the expectation that they were going to do this themselves, and I wasn't going to teach them. And we played music. We've always had music in the events. The atmosphere was really nice, and there was no sort of tension. Sometimes I do a lot of lecturing, and lecturing for first years, and it's like, well, it's just like a vacuum chamber. You speak in, you're trying to get them to engage, and they're all very shy. But once they realise that they can ask questions of anybody, and nothing bad happens, they really get into it. And the added bonus was, none of this was assessed, so they were working at their own pace, and they wanted to be there as well. So I
think it's a phrase you use, Sam, about this community learning idea, and lots of people have done quite a lot of work on this. So Tozy and Gregory's work very much talks about the advantages, the educational advantages of community learning. Have you seen that in your own work, that there's that move from actually one person telling people how to do things to actually that idea of understanding and problem solving together in little communities?
So I think briefly we were kind of like thinking of how to improve HiPy, and we had a little bit of feedback basically saying that they wanted more structure to the sessions. Which ended up with me standing in front of everyone and doing the lecture, and we just found that it completely just broke the session apart, and it just lost kind of like everything that was good about it, because it was no one was talking to each other, no one was interacting, there was no kind of community exchange of ideas, so we very quickly went back to the kind of old method, because we just found that just completely it just turned into kind of like a module that was just unassessed and kind of like done by someone who kind of like perhaps isn't the best to do it kind of thing. So it was like, we very quickly went back, because I think that's where the strength lies really, is in the exchange of ideas, and we get new people coming in with new ideas.
It's really remarkable. I'm always amazed at how many new starters we get every session. So we have these very distinct groups. We have these absolute diehards like yourself, who I'm very grateful for. And they give their time week after week, on a volunteer basis. I can't pay them, and they're just completely dedicated to it. They're so into it, and they completely understand that this is entirely extracurricular, but also that it's important. They sort of share this ethos that we really do need to make sure people leave with this skill from university.
And it is fulfilling a need, isn't it? So the coding was only introduced to the national curriculum at primary school level in 2014. Because I remember my kids were at primary school then, and they were coming home telling me, we're learning to code. And I was like, what? You're learning to code? But actually, we've got students at university now who've been through an education system where they've never learned to code. So we've got this skills gap. And obviously we're now trying to fill that skills gap through the national curriculum. But, my kids aren't at university yet. So
it is really exciting. I've got a 6-year-old daughter, and she came home the other day and said, Daddy, I wrote an algorithm today, and it just blew my mind. I was like, well, what did you do? It's like, well, this is how you make a jam sandwich. And she was a very, very precise set of instructions on how to make a jam sandwich. Like, that's brilliant. At that age, she's in first year of primary school. So that's really, really promising. But as you said, there's this whole, it's a generational gap, really. I did it myself. I did a PhD without knowing how to code. I often think if I'd known it, I would have done it a lot quicker. But also more recently, I've seen a lot of students who really can get through. These are clever people, right? They're physicists, chemists, mathematicians who get through their entire degrees and start on PhDs, and they don't know how to code, and often it's a real disadvantage, especially today when everything is data driven.
Yeah.
So in those early sessions, what were people coding? What were some of the outcomes?
Well, it was very, very basic.
Yeah.
Often, the most people managed were to just plot a graph or read in a data set, and we got them to install everything they needed to install so they could run it in their own time.
Yeah.
And then the resources were, we begged, borrowed, and stole everything from the internet. Actually, that's sort of completely in line with the sort of the mantra of coding anyway, right?
Yeah,
so the first thing you're going to do is Google it.
Yeah.
So we
borrow some spare code.
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty much.
So it was very, very introductory, and I think that the biggest thing we showed people was that if you get stuck, you just gotta ask someone or Google it. A number of times I say, "Have you Googled that?" The first thing I say, and it was really fascinating because the initial instinct was like, "Oh, are we allowed to do that?" And I was like, "Yes, you can. Of course, you can." So in the sessions, it was very, very introductory, and I think that's really the role we fill. We have experimented with, and we still are experimenting with more advanced sessions, and of course, it's such a broad thing. As soon as you try and develop content which specializes, you really do exclude a lot of people, not because they haven't got the skills or they're not fluent in Python, but because the application is so niche. Some people want it for something completely different, so they would never come. So our target audience really diminishes very quickly. So we always end up going back to what we do best, and that is just getting people in a room, starting to code, and starting them on their journeys of adventure in Python land.
That might
Yeah. And often they come back and say, "Oh yeah, I've now written a script that scrapes the Chinese website for this data and formats it in this, and then plots it." It's like, "Oh wow, that's amazing." Mm-hmm. So and we're always really excited to hear back from people who come back later.
Because we do have the other resources and videos online, and what we find is that a lot of people come to the first Hive, they kind of get started, and we can kind of see through kind of the metrics of the video views and the accessing of resources that people are accessing these later resources. Mm-hmm. And they come. I had one guy come to a kind of like a Hive, and he went kind of like, "Are you the Sam Ball?" And I was like,
"Wow!
I've never met you in my life, but I've been watching all of your videos." And I was like, "Oh my word!"
That's brilliant. Autographs later.
I was a bit kind of struck down. But he was saying, "I've followed all of your videos, and now I'm applying kind of like machine learning stuff, kind of very basic machine learning stuff to his work." I was like, "Wow, that's kind of insane, really." Because that guy had never been to a Hive in his life, but he just turned up one day and he was like, "I'm in Liverpool. I'm not usually here, but I thought I'd swing by." And I was like, "Wow, completely insane." Yeah.
So that leads me nicely on to my next question around the impact of what you've done. So obviously you've monitored and evaluated. You found those interesting stories of where it's led people. Have you got any other examples of the impact that you've had?
Well, so we don't. And that's probably what I'm quite bad at, really. is actively tracking that. And I sort of feel that, to apply some sort of metric or, follow up, it sort of takes,
it's too rigid.
It takes the fun out of it a bit. And also, it's just time. I mean, we're doing other stuff as well, right? And this is, for both of us, this is a real outlet of fun for us. We really love doing it, and people seem to enjoy coming. So to sort of put any sort of further stretch into it, I'm always sort of reluctant to do it. I am doing it because, from my own sort of scholarship within my role as a lecturer, this is really, really interesting pedagogically. I mean, in terms of developing this approach, but I think everything we get it's mostly anecdotal, which is always incredibly satisfying. I mean, I've never heard that story before. That's a great story. No one's ever come and said, "Oh, you're the Rob Treharne." So what is always a real buzz, and it's exciting for me, and why I think we keep doing it is because generally once a week, once a session, someone will come and say, "Oh yeah, I've applied for this job and I've got it." And they really liked the fact that I knew a bit of Python. And I just sort of always, I find incredibly satisfying. And I know a lot of students who, have gone on to PhDs, internationally, or they've got jobs in the sort of the data science sectors, and they all, come back and say, "Oh, thanks for HiPy. It did help me get the job," which, I think is one of our key purposes of continuing to exist.
Yeah.
I think if every session we have 60 people and 10% of them get jobs in data science thanks to us, then that's more than worthwhile doing. We will keep doing it.
Yeah, and that's a really nice tangible output, isn't it, in terms of employability. Some of the work that they've been doing at primary school level is looking at some of those kind of softer skills that coding brings to the children in terms of problem solving, being able to articulate, just development of creativity and understanding of creativity. Have you seen some of that in terms of those kind of softer skills that go alongside it?
So it's not the big one. Sorry, I'm ranting again now.
That's fine.
So the really fascinating one for me is, and I teach a lot of math as well. I see that there's an intrinsic fear associated with this particular skill, and what these sort of Hive environments do is sort of puts everyone at ease. It basically says, "Look, you're going to make mistakes. It's fine. This is what happens when you do it," and that anxiety and that fear is often what discourages people from learning this skill, because it's not an easy skill. It's a challenging, and I'm still an absolute novice really in Python. It's something which is it's like learning any language. You have to keep speaking it to get fluent in it. And so there's a huge barrier. So I think what we really do well is quietening that anxiety to some extent, and sort of making it more fun and more friendly. It puts people at ease so that they can really sort of learn something new. And then once they've got it installed and they're writing lines of code, that's it really. Then it's just a logical sort of slog. I always say you're not really. This is not really how you're going to learn code. You're not going to come into a room, once a week and learn this. You are going to be on your own, usually in a bedroom, smashing your face against a keyboard until it works. And I think once you tell them the worst case scenario and that everyone else has been through that pain, they relax a bit then. Yeah.
I absolutely love that though. There's something really powerful in that, because I think a lot of our students have come from an education system where we learn the right answer, and there isn't that space to get things wrong and to try things out, and because we learn the answer and then we get the GCSEs and the A-levels, whereas actually you're providing a safe space for people to try things out and to get things wrong and to practice together and have those conversations, and that's really, really powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
I can relate to that. Definitely. Being someone who suffers with, who has that sort of perfectionist mindset. When I've done little bits in the past with JavaScript or HTML, if it's not gone right first time, I'm like, well, I can't do it. I simply can't do this. Your approach would definitely help the likes of me.
And especially JavaScript, because we both do a bit of web development in the background kind of thing. It just never actually goes right. It's like around the back, it's just like it's always a mess, really, isn't it? But
that is obvious. That when I'm in a session, I'm always looking for red. So basically, when you get an error, it's going to throw up a bit of red script or something, and that is the opportunity to learn. That's the bit where I'm carefully watching over their shoulders, not in a creepy way, but just saying, right, and just explaining, okay, this is the bit where you are going to learn something, because if you can figure this out yourself, that's all it is. If you can get over this problem, you can get over any problem. Just apply that it is grit, right? And it is, you get knocked down every time, and every time you hit an error, it's sometimes, I remember when I first started, like the world had ended, right? And then you do it, you keep doing it, and then it's no big deal after a while. And what tends to happen is you cut and paste that into Google, and then someone has instantly solved your problem for you anyway. And that is itself the skill, I think.
So that's another life skill. You're giving people resilience.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
I'll take credit for that. That's
you should. You might solve all mental health problems across.
Oh God, not giving that responsibility. No,
another award for you to consider.
No, it's not. It's that's why personally, that's why I like coding.
Yeah,
is because it is so abstract, and it is, here's a problem, here's the solution. No matter what it is, no matter how technically challenged it is or what the context is, that situation where you have a problem and a solution is always the same. And there's a sort of warm comfort in that. There's no real ambiguity. There's still 1,000 ways to solve it, but once it works, that's it. It's correct. That's how it works. And there's a huge satisfaction in that for me personally.
No, I can see that.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So in recognition of your work with HiPy, you received the Learning and Teaching Fellowship in 2019, presented to you by our Vice-Chancellor.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how you're going to use the fellowship this year to develop your practice?
So my own personal practice. So I'm actually engaged on the PGCAP program currently. So HiPy is featured heavily in all my submissions. I'm really trying to sort of build what we've done. It has been a long time, 4 years we've been doing this now, and people keep yelling at me to write it up. So I'm finally getting around to building a good and honest narrative of what we've done, and actually going deeper and finding other cases of this, which has been documented previously, and trying to sort of make sense of why it works. Why does this work, and why does not standing in front of a lecture podium not work in the context of teaching code? So really trying to understand, how and why it works, and to create some sort of publication. I've done a lot of conferences about HiPy. I've been to Alt-C, our own learning and teaching conferences, and it always gets a great response when I basically just put up, pictures from our events and say, look at this, isn't this amazing? So I've been doing that for a while.
And do you think people really get the vision behind it because they could see how it would work in their own discipline? Maybe this idea of kind of community learning, and I guess people don't have to be teaching coding, do they?
No,
for this
and
to work?
That's the exciting thing. It is applicable to other sort of disciplines, I think. So we're looking. I think we are looking currently to try and find other applications of it.
Yeah.
So I have this amazing test bed of often willing, often unwilling undergraduate students that I teach. So I do a lot of active learning style teaching with them. And actually this year we've actually introduced coding to them as well. So I'm trying to, it's very different. The difference between HiPy and a sort of a formal program or a module is that HiPy, you've got people want to be there. Which I know sounds crazy because, students, you'd think they'd want to be there, but often at 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, the last thing they want to do is sort of debug 100 lines of code. So it is very different. The expectations are very different. There's a lot more, a support required in that environment. But things like playing music, or even better, getting students to suggest tracks ahead of it and then build in some sort of background playlist. Things like that have a huge impact on.
Yeah, tell us about that.
So that was the silly thing we did. We always played music, and then one session I said, "Oh, why don't you just when you register, just tell me the track you want to play."
Yeah.
So we ended up playing. Actually, they were live sessions from loads of people, which you got off YouTube. But people got really into it, and they got a real sort of sort of sense of gratification when their song came on. I took this one, and then it got a bit silly because we ended up having these massive.
People started playing 1 hour free jazz tracks.
I think we had 24 hours of clog dancing or something.
Oh, wow.
The Phil Collins meme is still going. So Phil Collins features very, very heavily. So we don't know who it is. Someone's submitting tracks by Phil Collins on a regular basis. So he features. And again, that's something that really does increase engagement in a fun, in a silly way, but it serves the purpose of decreasing the tension in the room. Lovely. It gets you into all sorts of trouble as well because you're in probably a more formal teaching room. I've done it in engineering a couple of times, and you put the speakers on, and then sort of members, staff running in from other quarters of the building. Like, what the hell's going on in here? Yeah. It's like, we're having a coding session. It's like, okay. But no, it is very different. So that's sort of how I'm trying to apply it to my own teaching now, is sort of to take the real active learning components and apply them, which of course we're being encouraged to do by our own curriculum 2021. There you go, I said it.
Well done.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you've just mentioned curriculum 2021, because it's not only that, but obviously the university has strategy 2026, education strategy, and there's some of those hallmarks from curriculum 2021 talk about digital fluency and confidence and things like that. And Sam, you've just mentioned a story about how somebody was more employable because of HiPy. So how does the project help the institution meet some of these goals?
Yes, in terms of global citizenship, we're currently developing a resource for graphing and visualizing the effect of the coronavirus in the Chinese region. And I think it's going to be really good to teach people the skills alongside some real world data so that they can actually see the effect of what their skills are able to do to a real world environment in terms of kind of helping people out in understanding some of these problems. We've seen, I read an article the other day about how a company had used artificial intelligence to kind of try and predict where the coronavirus outbreaks were going to occur. And they're now predicting organisations, and more often than not, they're saying that they're correct in their predictions. And kind of Python and learning Python is kind of the first step into developing these artificial intelligence algorithms that can have a really positive effect on society. And I think one of the things that we want to work towards is kind of directing the positive effect of artificial intelligence and kind of like steering it towards a force for good rather than perhaps a force for not so good, as we see quite a lot in the news.
So is HiPy available to staff?
Absolutely. And that really is our mantra that features very, very prominently. It's for free, it's for all, and it's forever as far as we're concerned. And we do get a lot of staff. We get a lot of external people coming in, a lot of school teachers.
Get some school kids now, don't you?
Yeah, we get a faithful following of usually parents bring in their kids in, and they're usually either GCSE or even A-level prospective students as well, and they get really into it, and they're learning together as well, which is a really exciting thing.
Because we actually did the Python versus MATLAB event recently, didn't we?
Yeah.
Where we kind of I wrote a series of 10 questions that were kind of in order of difficulty, and they got quite challenging towards the end. And we basically said one group uses Python to try and solve these problems, and we had a couple of people from MATLAB who were saying we could use MATLAB to solve these problems as well. And we had a kind of a small group of about six formers who came in and kind of just destroyed it.
Absolutely just annihilated the competition.
And it was ridiculous.
And they were, I think they were from the Wirral somewhere. So they really made an effort on a Wednesday evening to get, I had this vision of them being on the boat across the Mersey, just to trek in and get here, walk up that hill, and just sort of knock it out the park. So it's really, really, and that's the great thing is all of our events we really promote publicly. We say it up front, you do not need to be a member of staff or a student at the University of Liverpool. Right. That brings about some really, really interesting collaborations. We've got students coming in from John Moores, we got students coming in from entering Manchester universities as well. And then people in, in sort of private enterprises as well. So we have companies coming in with really data science questions. They're often consultants for data, and they want to know more about Python.
Oh, amazing! So you've got a real rich group of people.
Yeah.
And
then people start like talking to each other as well, don't they? And then you've got like students talking to people in industry and learning like the real applications of what they're doing, and kind of like it then becomes this kind of big melting pot of people sharing ideas.
And that's it. It's when they realise, you can do that. You can do that with it, can you? Yeah. And then that's it. I mean, unless you've got a reason to learn it, you're much less likely to sit down and force yourself to do it. If you've got a problem, whether it be in the context of an assessment you're trying to do, or you've got some interesting data, once you've got that problem in your mind, that's when you really start to learn how to code.
And students then are therefore learning about companies out there that they think, oh, actually one day these companies are doing this sort of work. This is where I could be heading.
So one of the biggest questions I get asked, and it's a massive question that we've tried to address in resources, is kind of like the so what question. It's like you've sat down for 2 hours and you've learned all these abstract Python things, and then kind of someone comes up to me and goes, okay, so what, kind of thing. And I go, kind of speaking to companies, I can now go kind of like, this is the kind of company that implements this kind of machine learning, and this is why it's helpful. You don't have to do machine learning, you can also do web development with Python. And it's about like opening people's ideas up as to the job opportunities for Python, and actually that it's not scary. You can actually get a reasonably good job with fairly little work, as long as you're open to the idea of coding and you're willing to get your head around and kind of put your head down and smash your head against a keyboard for about 3 hours. Like it's possible.
That sounds like a tactical HiPy.
Yeah.
Smashing your head against a keyboard for 2 hours.
I like it.
For everyone.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I'm actually going to put that on a poster.
Brilliant. Thanks, guys. We really appreciate you coming and chatting to us today. What we like to do is finish each podcast with a couple of kind of take-home tips for our listeners, just to go away and reflect on in terms of some of the great stuff that you've been talking about. So have you got a couple of tips for us?
We do. I think before that, I just want to just make one acknowledgement, and that it has been an absolute privilege to build this from a crazy idea to begin with, and to really thank the university for allowing us to just completely get on with it, and there was no one came in and asked what we were doing, or why are you doing this. We were just allowed to do it, and at every point they have been incredibly supportive in that, and we've received a great deal of support at all levels, and it's a cross-faculty initiative, so it goes right to the top often. We get people from all faculties in the room, and we've never been told we shouldn't be doing this. It's always a real pleasure. So I just want to say a big thank you to the university for that.
Brilliant. And I guess that was acknowledged in your Learning and Teaching Fellowship as well.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
That's great.
Okay,
so some tips.
Tips. I'll start.
Yeah.
So I always give the Field of Dreams speech, right? So this is the actually it's misquoted. It's usually "Build it, he will come," right? This is Kevin Costner in a wheat field. Right? So I would sort of augment that slightly. It's "Build it, they will come." So if you get an idea and you think that would be really good, before you think too much about it, go and book a room, right? Go and get a room and just put a poster up somewhere, and people will come. And I've been involved in lots of events where I've stopped myself doing it because I worry that maybe they won't like it, or maybe they won't come, and just to completely ignore that feeling and do it anyway. People are always very, very enthusiastic for whatever you can offer. Yeah, that's my advice.
Yeah. I think mine would probably be kind of the idea of community and surrounding yourself with people who kind of share and love what you love doing. I think networking is kind of seen as a bit of a necessary evil, really, isn't it? It's like kind of go to events and you talk to people who kind of and you make the connections. But I think if you can genuinely surround yourself with people who share the same kind of like interests and drives what you do. I think that's really, really important, and I think that's what HiPy is a great example of. Is a group of people who get into a room who kind of love what they do and they want to do it. And I think that's when kind of real kind of success is kind of developed.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for coming in. We've really enjoyed talking to you both.
Thank you very much for having us. Yeah.
Oh, I really enjoyed that conversation with Rob and Sam. It was so evident how enthusiastic they are about their project and how much they get out of it. What I really found valuable from the conversation was hearing them talk about that kind of Hive environment that they've worked really hard to foster, and the way it's really dealt with the kind of anxiety and fear associated with learning something that is perceived as something quite difficult. But through having that kind of fun and friendly environment, they've removed that barrier to learning for the people who come along. So I think that's something that we can really reflect on and think about for our own practice. Another thing that I want to reflect further on is how actually Sam was saying that they lost the essence of that Hive learning when they moved to kind of front delivery. They said on a couple of occasions they got Sam to the front and he did a bit of kind of lecturing almost. But when that happened, it kind of really broke down in terms of what they were trying to do. And actually, it was when they came back to the kind of community learning, sitting around the tables, having the conversations, that there was some really positive stuff going on. And they were going to use that as a format moving forward.
Yeah, you're right there, Alex. I also picked up on that. When we were talking about that method of learning and how that took the tension out of the classroom, I think it was Rob who described that lecturing to first years sometimes feels like you're in a bit of a vacuum chamber, whereas the HiPy sessions seem to have a great atmosphere and people are clearly able to and free to ask questions of each other, which is brilliant. One other thing for me that I picked up on from that conversation was the employability aspect and how HiPy has enabled students to gain employment in industry because they were able to put down on their CVs that they could code. So which obviously that is absolutely fantastic and something that both Rob and Sam should be very proud of.
Brilliant. So there's loads of really good stuff for us to reflect on there. If you'd like to take your thinking further, we've added some further resources to the website, particularly around this idea of peer-assisted learning and community learning. So if you go to the specific podcast reading list, you can access it on liverpool.ac.uk/the-academy/podcast. That's where we've put all those resources for you to check out. Also, do let us know what you thought about this episode. It would be great to hear back from you. So do tweet us at Live Uni Academy.
Yeah, and please rate and review in Apple Podcasts, just as Hamlet Person has done. He recently reviewed one of the episodes in our podcast and said that he's learning a lot about HE practices and university structures from the podcast. As a new member of professional services staff, it's invaluable, which is great feedback, Hamlet. Thanks for that. We really appreciate it. You can also subscribe to the podcast via platforms such as Spotify, Google Podcasts, or even YouTube. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.